If it matters to you, it matters to us. Call TIP today on 1-800-938-007.
It's time for this.
The Conspiracy Files on TIP today.
Morning, Ellie.
Good morning, Fran.
What have you got for us today?
Well, the Carrington event. And the Carrington event is something that is of historical importance and I suppose has come into the media spotlight again in recent days because of Three Eye Atlas, which we're covering and we're following very closely. And we're very nervous about it.
Some of us are terrified about it.
But as it passed behind the sun, it caused the sun to emit a number of solar flares. And this raised a lot of attention in the media as well, because if that were to happen, and if there were a huge solar activity, how would it affect Earth? And people say it happens all the time, but a massive event of a solar flare and a solar storm has actually happened before, but in a different time in humanity, because it happened when we didn't have electricity. And if it were to happen now, it would be absolutely catastrophic. So to look at the major event that did happen, and to compare it to if this could happen today and what the outcome of that could be. We're looking at September 1st of 1859. This was known as the Carrington event. And what happened was a mega solar flare erupted and caused a huge geomagnetic storm on Earth. This eruption was so intense that British astronomer Richard Carrington could spot two blinding bursts of light through the lens of his telescope. Now, he was an amateur scientist at the time, and records of this storm gave it the name it has today, the Carrington event of 1859. And to this day, it remains the world's largest solar storm on record. Here are some of the details surrounding it.
The Carrington event was the most intense geomagnetic storm ever recorded, occurring in September 1859. It was triggered by a massive solar flare observed by astronomer Richard Carrington, which sent a coronal mass ejection towards Earth. The resulting geomagnetic storm caused widespread disruptions to telegraph systems, with operators experiencing electrical shocks and some telegraph stations even catching fire.
Richard Carrington, a passionate sky watcher in a small town near London, witnessed a spectacle on the sun. Carrington, while sketching sunspots on September 1st, was momentarily blinded by an intense flash. It was so bright that he initially thought something had damaged his observation equipment. Upon rushing outside, Carrington found the bright spots had vanished. Unbeknownst to him, what he just witnessed was a massive eruption on the sun's surface, known as a coronal mass ejection. A geomagnetic storm ensued. This event, famously termed the Carrington event, unleashed energy equivalent to 10 billion megatons of TNT from the sun.
Wow. So what exactly happened?
So it's like a whip, almost a whiplash of solar energy. So it would look like a large line coming out of the sun and whipping the atmosphere, and that has huge implications for the rest of the solar system.
Right. So the effect it had then was what?
The effect it had here was 17 hours after Carrington reported this event, the night sky in North America and as far south as Panama and Central America lit up like daytime. It was another wave of brighter auroras as well. People read newspapers by the light. Gold miners in the Rocky Mountains actually woke up, made coffee and made their breakfast at 1 a.m. thinking the sun had risen on a cloudy morning. But stranger things also began to happen because instruments that measure changes in the Earth's magnetism started acting very strange and their needles pinged off scale. There were spikes of electricity surges in the world's telegraphic systems. Nobody could send a message. It was so bad that some stations, as you heard in the audio, actually went on fire and nobody could send telegraphs because the whole system just blew out, essentially. Now, back then, remember, of course, this was 1859. The telegraph was just about the only communication technology that they had. And here's the effect that it had.
Consequently, the brightest ever auroras filled the skies. The resulting displays were so bright that residents in Missouri could read at midnight. Gold miners in the Rocky Mountains were deceived, causing most of them to wake up at 1 a.m. in the morning, thinking the sun had risen. Auroras became visible across the tropics regions from Cuba to Panama, and even all the way down to Moreton Bay in Australia. Geomagnetic compasses went crazy and pointed in the wrong direction, making navigation impossible for ships in the ocean. The telegraph lines were disrupted, and most of the machinery supporting the system caught fire. Frederick Royce, a telegraph operator in Washington, D.C., recalls he received a very severe electric shock that left him stunned. Bystanders even saw a spark of fire jump out of Frederick's head. It was a big turmoil, and nobody knew what was happening.
Nobody knew what was happening. But what about the cause?
Well, the cause of solar storms, like the one that the Carrington event in 1859, they happen about every 500 years, thankfully, but smaller storms happen much more frequently. And storms half as intense as the Carrington event of 1859, they happen about every 50 years. So sunspot activity rises and falls on a cycle of about 11 years. And the good news is we're currently approaching the next solar maximum by the end of this year, which does coincide with what's happening at the moment. So it is probably a good time to look at the worst solar storms to kind of compare and contrast and see, well, if it did happen today, could we handle it? Do we have the infrastructure to handle it? And what would happen?
And what would happen to us if it happened?
Well, probably the end of humanity as we know it.
What?
Well, I mean, when you think of it, like everything we do is we rely completely on communications, on satellites, on navigation, weather forecasting services, electrical power distribution. Just to maybe give a little...
This is getting more like War of the Worlds.
There you go.
You know?
Here's what it could do. Have a listen to this.
The internet, phones, social services, networks, nothing will work. We may lose connection with each other. Many large companies would go bankrupt, and the planet may face economic crises. These are big problems, but not the most serious ones. Electric plants serve boiler houses and water pumping stations. Solar storms could stop water from getting to our homes. You wouldn't be able to buy groceries in stores without cash. Of course, we can restore all this, but we'll have to live in the Iron Age for a while. But the worst thing is that a prolonged solar storm can suspend food production. For example, this year, a geomagnetic storm caused by solar storms shut down GPS satellites that are connected with modern tractors, so farmers couldn't work. What would happen if such storms happened every day for a year? We would probably start missing many items in supermarkets. Besides, maritime navigation also depends on satellites. Thanks to them, ships calculate the latitude and longitude of their location. If the satellites are damaged, ships may get lost in the ocean. Even whales get lost in the ocean during magnetic storms. Many birds navigate with the help of magnetic field during long flights to the south. So, not only people, but also animals may experience serious problems. Solar storms heat the upper layers of the Earth's atmosphere and thus make the air thicker. The movement of satellites slows down because of this air resistance. They lose altitude, and one of these satellites is Hubble. Yes, the very telescope that provides us with incredible pictures of space. Scientists say that it will fail much earlier because of solar attacks. You've probably heard on the news that solar activity has recently caused electromagnetic storms on Earth. But fortunately, it hasn't affected our lives in any way. The only problem was headaches, high pressure, and mood swings during those storms. It seems like an ordinary thing, but scientists don't have a consensus on this topic.
So besides all that...
But we'll be fine. But it's funny, the physical attributes of that, because you have that. There's a lot of people, and we do in our house as well, suffer from the weather headaches. Like if the pressure is very heavy in the sky or you've grey clouds in the sky, we all get headaches in our house. Yeah, do you not get that?
No.
Yeah, the weather would affect you very much. And if there's electricity in the air, which would be caused by a solar magnetic storm, it would cause that. So it does affect people.
You'd all be
physically as
sensitive,
well.
though. Yes,
We're
you'd
fear
be kind of
sensitive out in Skaheen. But if we were to have, we'll say, a storm now on the scale of the Carrington event, like that would absolutely kill our internet. Internet would be gone. You'd have people and businesses completely offline. So for this reason, the government in the UK actually lists adverse space weather as one of the most serious natural hazards in its national risk register. So they've advised companies to have contingency plans in place to deal with these severe events, and as long as they have sufficient warning of them. Even researchers from Lloyd's of London and the Atmospheric and Environmental Research Agency in the US have estimated that a Carrington event today would result in between $0.6 and $2.6 trillion in damages. And that's just to the US alone. Now, we did have a near miss because we narrowly missed a major solar storm in 2012. And what actually saved us that day was that the sun was faced away from us. But it means that we missed the end of the world as we know it by just 9 days. Here's why.
So yeah, 2012 is the near miss where a Carrington-sized event just missed Earth. The end of the world just missed us. And it missed us by 9 days because the sun spins about every 25 days. It just happened to be not facing us by a 9-day miss. So we're now in the 25th solar cycle and we're coming into the peak of it. You get increased solar flares and you also get increased CMEs or coronal mass ejections. It's like sun vomit. Whenever you get that snapping, you release a lot of mass that shoots material off into space that we call the solar wind. It literally is mass because a bunch of SpaceX satellites just fell out of the sky when there was a big solar wind event because the atmosphere literally became thicker. It became too dense and slowed down the satellites to the point where they couldn't recover and they fell down to Earth and burned up the atmosphere.
That's crazy.
So it's a big deal when the sun's magnetic field flips. For us, what it means is these periods of heightened and potentially extreme solar activity. So the peak of the solar cycle will happen in 2025. So that means increasing solar activity right now.
Yeah, so we have it now.
We've been warned.
We've been warned. Yeah. Assuming 3i Atlas isn't as bad as we all fear it might be, we should be okay though.
But you have genuine fears about this,
I'm
don't
terrified about 3i Atlas.
you?
I'm
This is
really
the thing
concerned.
that's currently hurtling towards but it's behaving strangely.
Very strange. It stopped for a while outside Mars. Nobody seems to know why. It stopped behind the sun. Nobody seems to know why. The jet propulsion not a jet, but the tail of the comet isn't on the right side.
Right. So it's not behaving like a comet traditionally
it's not.
would.
But the hard thing about 3i Atlas, like me, is if you fall into that rabbit hole, like X is all you see on X now is 3i Atlas, but you can't discern what's true and what's not in it anymore. And normally you could before. And then you have, everything is kind of AI generated now.
That's right.
So it's very
all
hard
the
to figure out.
images you have to be so careful of.
Like I looked yesterday and there was 7. It said 7 some kind of craft have been emitted from it. From where it is now, and they don't know what these craft are. And then I said, God, I better put the phone down.
Do you really go down rabbit holes with all of this?
Rabbit holes, yeah.
Yeah. But you see, the trouble is, as you say yourself, you don't know what you're viewing or reading now. And
the problem is, I've all the family warned, right? And we have our little escape plan ready. But so Christmas is going to be very awkward because it's just going to be, what happened with 3i Atlas, Al? But sure, look, I'd rather be wrong.
Well, surely they'd be delighted that you're wrong as opposed to slagging you off for being
Absolutely. At least
wrong.
we're not all in a cave somewhere rubbing sticks together trying to make a fire.
Oh, that's great indeed, yeah. Now, there was a lot of people out there this morning happily going about their lives, not knowing anything.
There you go. Sorry to bring you down.
But there you go. All right, Ellie, thanks very much indeed. That's our Alison there with Conspiracy Files and 1800 938 007. Brian was on to say, if you go onto the YouTube channel, Stefano Burns Astronomy, he shows all of these solar flares and is covering the Atlas as well and the other 3 comets presently in our solar system, and I would highly recommend it, says Brian. All right, that's it for me. When Ali isn't going down a rabbit hole on Conspiracy Files, she's been producing the show. Stephen's on the way with the time, Donald. I'll talk to you tomorrow. Look after yourselves, won't you? Bye-bye.
Tip FM's Tip Today.
With Slattery's Garage, Puck On. Main Peugeot dealers in the Premier County. And now stocking the full range of the luxury French car brand DS Automobiles. Book your test drive today with Slattery's Garage, Puck On. See slatterysgarage.ie.